Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to delete duplicates in a row in rows. Before we do that, go to excelvbasql.com and you can watch a lot of hours of video on Excel VBA. Put your email address in here and I'll send you an email when new videos are uploaded. Contact me here and I will answer your questions. So let's get started. So let's say that we work at a manufacturing company who manufactures radios, watches, and shoes. And let's say that we have a data set that looks like this, where we have the name of the product, an invoice number, and a price. And the invoice numbers are different. And let's say that our data has something wrong with it, that it has duplicates like this. So I just copied what's up here and I pasted it right below. So now I have a duplicate of everything, and then I'll do it again. I have another duplicate. So we looked at in another video on excelvbasql.com, there's code that will highlight the duplicates. But in this code, in this video, we want to delete the duplicates. So you can do something like this. You can go to the Data tab in Excel and go to Remove Duplicates, and it'll highlight the range for you. And then here you can specify what columns go into the determination of a duplicate. So here, if I select all these columns, it'll say the name, the invoice, and the price. They must be unique, or else it'll cause a duplicate. So if I do that and I just select OK, it deleted the 6 duplicates, which is cool, and you can see that those 6 duplicates are gone. But what we're going to do in this video is we're going to do exactly what that functionality just did, what this remove duplicates does. Only we're going to do it in code. We're going to do it in VBA code. And why are we going to do that? Well, sometimes you need to have more functionality than what this provides here. Sometimes you might need to take this and divide it by take this and multiply it by a percentage or something, or you might need to append things to this or do other things. So if we make a custom subroutine that will do this, then we have more flexibility in our Excel procedures. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use this. You should use it by all means when it is applicable to your scenario. But if you need to do something custom, that's what this video is for. It'll show you how to identify duplicates and delete them. So let's get started. I already wrote the code, so hopefully this video won't be too bad. But I want to just show you what the code is. We'll walk through line by line. So I declared a bunch of variables up here. First of all, name of my procedure is delete duplicate rows, and I declared some variables. I declared a couple range variables, RNG and search result. I declared a couple of string variables, end cell, ADD of search, this stands for the address of search, start ADD, that stands for start address, big string, and rows to delete. Now this is an array here, so just be aware of that. So you see things like search result and address of search. So let me first give you an overview of how the code is going to work. First thing we're going to do is make a dynamic array that will be as big as the values going from B2 to whatever row our last value is. And so we're going to have something that, in our case, right now, as you see it, will look like this. This would be our range. We would make a range that goes from B2 to B10. If we had more values, say down to row 19, it would look like this. So we want to be able to handle the case where our data can expand and contract, and that's what we're going to do. And we're using column B here just because we are going to use column B as sort of the initial column that determines what a duplicate is, and I'll show you that in a second. But once we declare this range, we're then going to loop over every cell in this range, starting at 422 and then 344, 987. We're going to loop over that. And then during the loop, so when we're here at the first time during the loop at 422, we're gonna look in this range and we are going to count how many other instances of 422 are there. And once we have that, we're going to subtract 1 from it. And why are we doing that? Why do we subtract 1? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to perform searches using the find function. So we're going to look at 422 and count how many other times it appears in this range. And okay, here it is again, and here it is again. So this is 3 times. It appears 3 times. We subtract 1, that gives us 2. And that means we're going to perform 2 searches. So we count them so that we know how many searches to perform. And we subtract 1 to know that we only need to search 1 more time to go here, and then a second time to go here. That's 2 searches. So we're going to go through every cell, and we're going to look for that value, whatever is in that cell. We're going to count the number of occurrences, and then we're going to subtract 1. So if it was 344, we would look in this range, and we would count how many times 344 appears. It appears 1, 2, and 3, and we subtract 1. That gives us 2. And being on this cell, we know that we can use that to do a search for 344 and then do another search for 344. And why do we do the search? Well, we do the search to identify a duplicate. So what is a duplicate? Well, we have 3 columns and they all need to be unique. So what we do is we create something, and I named it a variable called a big string, and all it is this. It's 422 and the column to the left of it and the column to the right of it, or to the left of it and the right. I just said that in the opposite order. But this string here is what is going to tell us if it's unique or not. So we use this string, we put it in a variable, and then we perform a search and we find 422 again. And then we create another string that uses the address of this search. So the address of this search is B5, and then we use that address to offset one column to the right and 1 column to the left, and we have another string. So this is another string. And then we do a comparison and we say, is this equal to this? And if it is, then we're going to delete this row. So that's how we're going to do this. But there's a little nuance that happens, and I'll show you that in a second, that we can't just delete the row, because if we delete the row, when we do another search, we get an error. So what we're actually going to do is identify this as a row to be deleted, and then we're going to put whatever row number this is, in our case 5, into a variable, an array. That's why I had this array here, rows to delete. I'm going to fill it with row numbers that I need to delete. And after I do that, I'm just going to make this blank. So we're going to make it blank, and if it was 344 that we were on, we'll go here and we'll do the same thing. Let me just bring this down. So if I was in 344, I would search here and I found that was 344, and let me just bring this down here. This was 344. So let me make this so that we can delete it. So okay, so if I was in 344, the very first cell in the range, I would find this 344. And because this string is exactly the same as that string, I would put this row number in the array variable so that later I can delete it. But then I would make that blank. Okay, and I would do that again down here. If this was 344, then this matches that as well. So on the second time that I search, I make this blank and I put the row number 8 in there. Okay, so let's get into the code because it'll be much easier to see what is happening. So let me just do a simple a simple example with just 2 duplicates. Okay, so I'm just going to call this big string because that's the name of the variable that I use. So we have 6 entries, and the bottom 3 are duplicates of the top 3. So let's look at the code now. Okay, so first thing we want to do is declare that dynamic range, and that's done here using this if statement. And all this says is, if b2 is blank, then make this end cell string variable set to 2. If it's not blank, then use this range b2.end xldown.row, and set that equal to the end cell. What that does is it looks at b2 and it goes, if it's blank, only make my range that I want to look in from b2 to b2. So that's just handles if b2 is blank, there's nothing in it, meaning we have no data to look at. If b2 is not blank, then it uses xldown to do this, to provide us this row number of 7. At that point, I can take 7 right here, it would be populated with 7, and I can set the range. So this line right here, it sets a range, RNG, that is from B2 to B7. That's what this is. So we've done that. Now we have a dynamic range that'll do this, and in our case it gives us this from B2 to B7. Now, like I said, we want to loop over that range. And when we loop over the range, we are looping over cells in the range, or actually range objects. So I called the object we're looping over R cell, and I did that in a for loop. So I go for each R cell in range. Now RNG is our range from B2 to B7, and for each range object in that range, so you're really dealing with very small range objects, and at this level that means a cell. And let me show you what that means. If I run this and I step through, I'm just going to look at what is our cell in memory. You can see our cell has a value of 344 the very first time in the loop, and there it is, 344. It's in cell B2 right there, and the type of that R cell is a range object. Okay, and you could sort of see that it's a range object because it has all these properties that a range has. So just beware, you're dealing with this is a range object, R cell. Okay, so now I want to count how many times does 344 appear in this column 2, column B, and that's what this line does, the highlighted one right now. It uses the worksheet function .countif, and it looks in column 2, that's the first parameter, and then what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for R cell. R cell here again has 344. And then I subtract 1. So after this line, x is equal to 3, because 344 appears 3 times. One's here, and one's here. So now I know that 344 appears 3 times. Now I put an if statement, and this if statement says if x is greater than 0, because when I'm looking for duplicates, if x is equal to 0, that means it only appears once. How do I know that? Because if 344 only appeared once, the value of this countif would be 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0. So I don't care about anything when x is 0. I only care when there's multiple instances of something. So I do if x is greater than 0. Okay, so now I create a string, a big string, and that's the name of my variable. And this big string, all it is doing is this right here. It's doing B2 and C2 and A2. And you could do that in any order, but I just did it in that order. And how do you do that in the code? Well, you just do it sort of the same way, only with the variables. So our cell is 344. The price here is 1 column to the right, so I just do our cell dot offset 0 rows and 1 column and dot value, and that'll give me 1. And then I also append rcell.offset 0 rows, -1 columns, which means go to the left, and that will put radio there. So if I step through this and I put a watch on this, I get 3441 radio. That's the value of big string. So you can see that's what I have here, 3441 radio. Okay, so now I put the address of where I started at into a variable called start add. So all I did is rcell.address. If I step through this, you'll see start add is equal to b2 right here. Start add is equal to b2. And then I initialize a search result object. So up here I declared an object called search result as a range. I just want to initialize that. I want to set that range equal to the range, the current range that I'm in, which is rcell. So I do that. And now here is where we're going to perform our searches. And remember, x is equal to 3 here. So we're going to search 3 times for 344. One here, we're going to find this instance, we're going to find that instance, and this instance. We're searching 3 times. So let's do that. So I have my loop here that is going to loop from 1, x count equal to 1, to x. Remember, x is the number of times we have to search, which comes from, if you forgot, it comes from this worksheet function countif. Okay. So now we know how many times we have to search, and we can start searching. So I set the search result object, which is a range object, equal to rng.find, and then a function with a lot of parameters. So what are we doing here? So I set search result. It's going to be a range. It's going to return a range. This whole thing over here is going to return a range. So I have a range object here. I set it equal to a range RNG. Now what is this? Well, this, remember, is this range right here from B2 to B7. We declared that up at the top right here. RNG is B2 to B7. All I'm doing is saying in this range B2 to B7, find me, so dot find me what? Find me rcell. Well, what is rcell? Rcell is going to be 344, which is right here. Remember, in memory, we saw that rcell is 344. And when find it after what? After the search result. What is the search result? Well, search result is this range that we're on, rcell. So it's sort of saying, okay, I'm in B2, I have the value 344. Find me another 344 after B2. So in some other cell, but not B2. And then look in the XL values, look at XL whole. Search order is going to be by rows, XL by rows. Search direction is going to be XL next. Match case is going to be false. So these parameters are just saying, look at the values, look at the whole part of the cell. I believe that's what that one is. Search by rows. This could be columns as a different option. Search direction is XL next, and match case is equal to false. I'm not exactly sure of all the different options for all these parameters, but you can Google, if you want to find out more about that, Google this .find VBA. Okay, so now we know what we're doing, that we are in this cell B2, we have the value 344 because that's in our cell, and we're searching for another instance of 344 that is not in B2. And we're going to search X number of times, which is 3 number of times, because we know there's 3 more 344s in this range. So then I step through, and search result, the search concluded, and I just put search result dot address in address of search. So let me add a watch to this address of search, and you'll see that address of search is B3. And why is it B3? Well, it looked for 344, it was in cell B2. We were in cell B2. It looked for 344, which was the value of B2, and we found it right below it in B3. Okay, so that's good. Now we're finding cells. So now we want to do a couple things. We want to test. We want to test if the value of that address. So we're at address of search. Remember, returned B3. What we do is we say is the value of B3 not equal to blank, and is the address of B3, so address of the search, not equal to the cell that we started from. So we do this because if the cell is blank, then we don't care. We don't want to do anything. And you could change that if you want, but right now I'm saying if I search and I find a cell that's blank, then I don't want to do anything. And I'm saying if I search and I come to an address that is the place I started from, I don't want to do anything. So this line right here, or this bit of code, it prevents us from searching and then coming back to where we started and deleting it. So that's why we have this in here, so that the address of the search, the address we found, doesn't equal where we started from. I want to say that has to be true, that the address of the search does not equal where we started from. If that criteria is true and it's not blank, and now here's the big comparison, big string is equal to the value of the address that I searched. And notice that to make it a value, address of search returns an address. I have to put the range function around it. So RANG, put the parentheses, and then you could use dot value on it. And now you get a value out of that address. So once I get the value out of that address, I can append the value of the address next to it by doing this, dot offset 0, 1, and then I can append the value to the or to the right of it here and to the left of it here, using again offset 0, -1 to go left. And once you put the dot value, you'll get something like this. So this whole line is this highlighted portion here. This is doing the if comparison that says, okay, I searched for 344. I found this address of B3. That is B3 not equal to B2? Yes, that's true. Okay, that's good. And then it says is what's to the left of it, or what to the right of it and to the left of it, if you combine that into a string, so here it is, here's a string, is that equal to big string? And in our case, big string is equal to this R3441 radio. So if all that is true, then I'm going to step through and delete. I'm going to not delete. I'm going to put the row of that address of where I searched into this array. And then I'm going to set that value of where I searched to equal to blank, and then I'm going to increase my array. So this is a dynamic array. If you don't know what a dynamic array is, go watch the video on dynamic array, one-dimensional dynamic array. So we're using this array to hold the row numbers where we have to delete the rows. So let's see. This comparison is true here. In our case, we're looking at B3 versus B2. So B3 is not blank. Okay, that's true. So this evaluates to true. And the address of the search, which is B3, does not equal our cell.address, which is B2. That's true as well, because B3 does not equal B2. But now the thing is big string equal to range address of search.value plus what's to the left of it and to the right of it? Well, we can see here that here's big string right now, right? This is 3441 radio. that is not equal to this. So we are not going to fall into this if statement. And if I step through, you'll see we step right over it. We go from this to here. We don't fall into here. So that's good. That means that we have code that works, that it doesn't identify this as a duplicate. Okay, so let me change this to radio, and I'm going to put 1 here. So now that we do have a duplicate, and I'm going to stop this, and then I'm going to put a breakpoint here, and I'm going to run it. Let me get out of this breakpoint too. I'm going to run it. Okay, so we're back to where we were, only now big string is equal to, so this is big string, which is 3441 radio, which is what is in cell D2. And now that is going to be equal to the address of where we search to, the value of that, plus what is to the right of it, and what is to the left of it. Because that's what you see here. Where we searched to was B3, and what to the right of it is 1, and to the left of it is radio. So that big string does equal that value. So now if I step in, I do fall into that true statement of the if statement, and I get to this point where I say, okay, give me the address of where I searched to, which is B3, and take the row and put it in this array, rows to delete. I go, okay, I do that. And then take this value of where I searched to and set it equal to blank. Okay, I do that. And now you see this. I have a blank value here because this is a duplicate. I also, if I go here and I look at this array, in rows to delete, I now have 3. So this tells me I want to delete row 3. And now I could increment my variable for the index of the array. Again, if you don't know what this is doing, go watch the video on arrays. And now I can search again for 344. And this time I searched, and my address is B5, which is right here. B5, 344, I have 1 radio. And I do the same thing. I say, are all these criteria true? And if we step in, it is true again. So I do the same thing. Now in my array, I have 3 and 5. So I also made that blank here. So I know that this is going to be deleted and this is going to be deleted. And then I keep doing that. And I'm just going to go down to this line and I'm going to press play. And if I look in my rows to delete, I have 3, 5, and 7. That's because this was a duplicate, that was a duplicate, and this was a duplicate. So it identified the duplicates. And now in my array, okay, I have 3, 5, and 7. First, let me explain why we're using an array here and not just deleting the row. Why can't we just do this, entire row dot delete? Let me show you what happens if we try to delete something and then search for it again. So this is a good break to see what's happening here. Let me paste this here. So let me go into the code and I'm going to run it, and I get to this point. Okay, it says I searched for 344. I found it in B4. I want to change this to something else. Let me do this again and show you. I'm showing you why we need to use an array here. So I searched for 344 starting at B2, and I found it in B5, and it is a duplicate. So then I delete the row. Okay, so it was deleted. And then I can do that stuff. Actually, we need to have, in order for me to show you this, I need to have multiple values of multiple duplicates. So let me do this. So now I delete one row. Okay, fine. But then I have to search again. Now here's where a problem comes up. So we get an error here because what happened was it says type mismatch. But what's going on is when I deleted that row, well, that was what was the search result. So it doesn't have a reference point to go off of. That's why I can't just delete this row like this. Range, address of search, entire row delete. So I can't do that because it creates an error. So what I can do, I can set the value to blank and I could put the row number in an array. And then once it's in an array, I can delete the rows. But here's the thing, is that let me just create something here so you could see that that it's important that, okay, fine, we could put so we could see that if I change this to so we could see that once I have my array of duplicates and I run that here, I have an array that says all these were duplicates. It identified those as duplicates. Okay, cool. Now I want to delete them. And how I delete them is I want to start at the lowest row and delete it, and then go to the next lowest row and delete it, and the next lowest row. But notice that in my array, I don't have them sorted from lowest, biggest row, highest row. I didn't mean lowest row. I meant the highest row, the one with the highest numeric value. I don't have them sorted from high to low. So I need to sort the array from high to low. And the reason I need to delete them, going from the biggest numbered row to the smallest numbered row, is because that if I delete a row here, then what was in my array row 7, let's say I delete row 5. Okay, I delete row 5. Well, now row 8 became row 7, and things start getting mixed up, because if you start deleting in the middle or from the top, then when you go to the next element to delete, then it's all going to be screwed up. So you have to sort these, and you have to delete from the highest numbered row you have to work in this direction and go up and delete all the ones that should be deleted. So how do we do that? Well, you have to sort this array. You have to this rows to delete contains these numbers 5, 8, 6, 9, 7, and I want to sort it from highest to low, so that index 0 is going to be 9 here, and so on, and then index 1 will be 8, and so on. So I created a function here called sort array, and I passed in the array rows to delete right here. And notice you definitely need by reference. This means that the memory where this array is sitting, it's passing that by reference, not by value, so that it's sort of like, let's see, it's passing it the address of where the array begins. You definitely need to do this here. I'll probably put up more videos on this, but if you're curious, go Google by reference arrays or something. But what I'm doing here, I'm taking this array that contains these numbers. I'm passing it to this function called sort array. Here's the definition of the function. Sort array takes an array by reference as variant. This rows to delete is a variant array, and it returns a variant. And all the function does is say, okay, for index 0 to index 5 or index 4, because it does ubound -1, then do another loop. Check against the variable right in front of it and say, is the element I'm on, is that greater than the one ahead of it? And if it is, then swap them. And this is where a swap occurs. I assign, let's say 5, well, in this case, yeah. So I'm building my array. I think I misspoke. I want the array, in this case, this is the code that will make the array from high to low, where the highest element has the highest number. But basically what I'm doing is I put this in a temporary variable right here. So if rows to delete I is greater than rows to delete j, then I put what was in this variable here into a temporary variable, so that I can replace rows to delete I with what was in here. And then I put the temp variable, I assign that to rows to delete j. So there's a switching going on. There's a swapping. I'm just swapping two elements. But in order to swap them, I can't just overwrite them, because that would cause me to lose one of the variables. So I need to put it in a temporary variable here. That's what this is for. Once I do that, then my array will be sorted, and I can return the array to from the function here. So sort array is the name of the function, and I just assign it to rows to delete, which is the array that I'm working with here. So we go back up, and if I step through this, now if I look at rows to delete, you can see it goes from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's sorted, okay? That is what this sort array function did. It sorted the array. And to be clear, I think I misspoke earlier. I said index 0 will be the highest number. Well, the way I wrote the function down here, it turns out that index 0 is the lowest number. But it doesn't matter. It just matters that it's in order now. From low to high or high to low, however you want to say it, it's in a numerical order. So then all I have to do is loop through this array and delete those rows starting at the highest numbered one. And look at here. So in my array, I have these numbers in it, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. And on my worksheet, I have row 9, row 8, row 7, row 6, row 5. This is where things were all made blank, because I identified these for default. So now I can go through and I can delete those rows by doing something like this. I say, if the size of the array does not equal 0, and I put this around here because if it's 0, I don't want to delete anything. I don't need to delete any rows. If it's not 0, then I'm going to do a loop. And here's my loop. It loops from I is equal to the upper bound, and in our case the upper bound is 6, because I have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 6 elements minus 1. Or actually, I'm sorry, it's 5. The upper bound is 5 minus 1, which means I is going to be 4. So I'm going to loop from 4. That's what this is saying. Loop from 4 to 0 with a step of -1. Now, if you haven't seen this, all this is saying, I want to go backwards, so I need to modify this for loop a little bit and put step -1 so that I could count backwards from 4. The next time in the loop it'll go to 3, and then next time in the loop it'll go to 2, then 1, and then 0, and then it'll stop. So I can loop through here, and let me move this over here, and you could see right here I go range B and rows to delete I. So rows to delete I is going to be, I'll show you in memory, I is equal to 4 here, because the U bound is 5, U bound is 5, -1 is 4. And, well, what is rows to delete at the 4th element? Well, it's 9. So I'm saying range B9 dot entire row delete. So it's saying range B9 dot entire row dot delete. So if I step through this, you'll see that row right here is going to be deleted. So I'll step through, and it's gone. And then it goes I is equal to 3. It sets I equal to 3. And it goes, what is in rows to delete at 3, at the 3rd element? Well, that's 8. So then I do range B8. So then this row will be deleted. And so on and so on. And if I keep stepping through, it's going to delete row 7, row 6, and row 5, which is row 7, row 6, and 5. And we could keep doing that. And there you go. And then it finishes, and it falls out of the subroutine. And here you have your no duplicate data set. So this is a pretty complicated, I would say, yeah, it's advanced VBA coding, because what it's doing, and let me get to the important parts of the code. You know, you have a for loop here that loops through every range in this range, RNG. And then we count the number of instances of a value. We're appending things together to put them into a big string. The complicated part gets into you know, this looping here that says, okay, I want to loop from 1 to X, and I want to set the search result equal to the value of that find function, and then, you know, understanding what's going on here. So as a summary of this video, this is probably the most important part of the video, is this whole highlighted portion here, because this is identifying the ones that are duplicates. And the main part of that is right here. Big string is equal to this. And remember what that's doing. It's just saying, is this big string, and big string comes from up here, is that equal to where you searched and what you found? So that's a big idea. And if it is, then you put the row of where you were at into an array, so that you can delete those rows later. And again, this is the tricky part too, is knowing that you have to sort your array, because you can't start deleting at row 3 and then delete at row 5, because if you delete at row 3, row 5 becomes row 4. That's how the rows work on the worksheet, you know. So you have to delete from bottom to top, moving up in that direction, from bottom to top. This function here to order the array, I'll probably put a video up on that. If I already haven't, I think I might have. So, but this is just sorting an array, and you could do from high to low, low to high. This goes from low to high. So if you want to make it a better function, you could pass in a variable to say, do you want high to low or low to high, or whatever whatever you're doing. So let's try this out one more time. I'm just going to put a lot of things here, and let me change shoes. I'm just going to put 30,000 or 3,000, and then book I'll put 2,000, and then radio I'll put 1000. So everything else should be deleted except these three entries and this entry and this entry and that entry. So let's see if that is the case. If I run it, sure enough, I have those three entries and these three entries here. So that's it for this video. One more thing in summary is that I would not use this code if you just want to delete something and you could use the remove duplicates functionality, because it's already built for you. And let me show you what that code looks like. So if you go to developer, record macros, if I just go to data, remove duplicates, and I select OK, if I look at that code now, if I go to developer, stop recording, macros, macro 1, step into, this is all Microsoft Excel is doing. So you'll see that my code is like 100 times longer, 50 times longer, I don't know, it's much longer. So I would not use my code if all you need to do is what they do here. If you just need to look at this range and delete columns. However, I would use my code if you have custom logic that you have to build into your deleting of your rows, which happens, I'm not going to say frequently, but it happens that you won't be able to just identify a duplicate by looking at this. You might need other criteria to say, is it a duplicate? And like I said at the beginning of the video, I believe I said it, is that what if you had to multiply the prices by 0.75 and then add some variable and then subtract this or do that? Well, you can't do that with this functionality, but you can certainly do that with the code that, let me get back to my module. You certainly can do whatever you want and customize deleting of duplicates by doing stuff like this. Okay. Now, one more thing is that another way to do that, to do exactly what I just sort of said, is to do all that calculation on the worksheet. To have formulas here, insert a column and go criteria 1 and then blah blah blah, right? And for instance, this could be like this times 0.75, and you're saying, well, why can't you just do that? And you certainly can. My issue is, and you could then append this or something, I don't know, but you can do all that extra logic, that custom logic on a worksheet. But then you start getting into multiple columns, and you got to start managing the columns and pasting of columns and things like that. So, this way you're doing all the logic in the VBA code. You don't need to add any columns to do any of that customized work. Whereas if you do it on a worksheet, if you do that custom logic like criteria 1, criteria 2, blah blah blah, you increase the size of your workbook with usually big formulas and things like that. So it's up to you. I just wanted to say you could do the custom criteria, and then you could have a big string here, and simply you could just pull off this big string here or do things like that. Because notice how I added this extra criteria to that column. Actually, this would have to be something like a Boolean yes no or something, so that you would have something like, here, I'll make it clear, like criteria 1, I'll put if that is greater than 2, then y, else no. So here's what you would actually do. You don't want the actual numbers in there because that wouldn't give you a duplicate sort of criteria. You'd want something like a yes, no, and here you can identify, okay, here I have a radio. Let me just make this. I have a radio 1. Paste this up. So here I would be able to add extra criteria and have that extra appended on, that extra logic appended onto this column here, like a N here. And in that case, this 3441 radio N and this 3441 radio N are duplicates. And you could then use the remove duplicates on this, and you could do it like that, and there you removed the duplicates there. So it can be done on the worksheet. It would require extra formulas, and to expand your columns in your worksheet, you could do it in VBA by just doing like offset times 0.75 blah blah blah. So anyway, sorry to go into a little tangent, but what I'm going to do is take this workbook and all this code here. I'm going to put it on excelvbasequel.com. Again, there's about 14 hours of video for free that you could watch. Also, you could download all this code. I'll put your email in here, and I'll send you an email for free videos, and contact me here, and I'll answer your questions. So until the next video, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.